Everyone, today's episode is brought to you by the sponsor Oliver's Assorted Plectrums. And as always, I hope everyone had a fantastic week. It went by fast, as I sometimes say. I think I say that a lot. Every Friday I go, what comes by fast? I think that's good, right? Sometimes your weeks are long, but but lately they've been fast. So, let's talk about a couple things. First thing, as always, if you're new to the live show and you want to talk to me or ask me a question, put the question mark first so I know it's directed at me. Otherwise, I assume you're talking to each other. And if you're watching the rebroadcast, I timestamp the subjects that we cover so you can go right to them. That way you don't have to watch the entire show. And as always, if you're listening to it as a podcast, thank you for joining. Especially I like to make these announcements to the podcast side. The YouTube side's always been a pretty strong side, but the podcast side just keeps growing, and it's great to see. So what do we got? We have questions. We have things going on. I want to just bring this up. If you guys didn't hear, I was going to talk about it. I know it might come up as a question. I just want to let you know. So if you haven't heard, Boutique Amps Distribution, which Boutique Amps is the manufacturer that builds Friedman, Wampler, Soldano, Tone King, Diesel pedals, Bogner pedals. They don't make the amps as far as I know. They just make the pedals. Of course, Synergy amps had a fire. And there's not a whole lot of information out there. And I specifically didn't reach out to them because, again, I just want to let you guys know I'm aware of it like a lot of you are. If you haven't been aware of it, well, now you are. And so far, this is the important stuff that I seem to know. No one was hurt, and that there was a firefighter, I guess, injured, but I guess he's okay. None of the employees were hurt, and so that if you guys know, you might want to put your thoughts or prayers and or whatever you choose to do out there. It's always horrible when somebody in our community has a misfortunate thing like this. I believe it was like the building next to their building or part of the building that's not their building that caught fire. Again, they haven't made any official announcements about where they're at. My guess would be, regardless of whatever they do going forward, you're going to see supply issues with getting those amps and those products. So just be aware of that. And it's just a horrible thing. I know it's kind of starting the show on a bummer. That's kind of why I wanted to do it. I just wanted to let it out there. If anyone asks me later in the show, I'm just going to kind of ignore it and go at our normal pace. This is the official, I guess, announcement of that. And like I said, my heart goes out to all of them. Great people, great products. As you guys know, I'm a fan. I have tons of their stuff, and I buy it all, and I like it. So there you go. What else? Oh, Ben says I should raise the volume. Really? Louder? Okay. Done. Is that better? Yeah, actually, I already know it is because I can see the signal. It's a little hotter. All right. And that's probably a little even better. Okay, there you go. It's up louder. That's what happens. This is my podcasting rig, and sometimes, very rarely, do I use the podcasting rig for normal video content, but I did this week. So I must have adjusted the mics a little bit. Okay, so now that we got that and we pumped up the volume, so to speak, and we got the volume up, let's go ahead and let's hit some questions. Right, let's do it. I'm trying to think if there's any other announcements. A couple other quick announcements. This one's more on the positive side. Let's get some positive stuff. Ben and Amanda Coombs did a video. I put a link in the description. They did a video. My wife had sent out the moderators a little gift, and they did an unboxing of it. It was really cool to watch. If that's something you're curious about, there you go. Something I wanted to state, just so you know, I didn't think about it until actually my wife kind of mentioned it in passing. The coffee shop that I'm mentioning, or the coffee shop that in Ben's video and stuff, is not the one that asks me what do I do for a living, which is probably why I like it even more. So Matt says, "What are you hiding behind the curtains?" I don't know. It's a secret. No, there's nothing behind the curtains. A wall. There's a wall there. The curtain. Well, there's a wall and a window. So let's see. The other announcements. That's it. Let me double check. Oh, okay. So here we'll hit this. Heatwave by Feed Lemon. Last week did a super chat. That's the band. The song is Heatwave, I believe. And the band is Feed Lemon. Asked me to roast or rate their song and their video. So I watched the video, like I said, and I enjoyed the song. It was good. I wouldn't know what to roast. It's not like it didn't sound professional. It sounded professional. It sounded good. So it's cool. I put a link to everybody else if they were curious to the video. It was very good. That's all I can say. I think that's the best thing you can say. You know what I mean? I'd love to tell you that if it was not a good experience, I wouldn't share it and I'd be nice. But even though I try to be nice-natured, I will tell you if I don't like something. I have no problem with that. So I liked it. I enjoyed it fine. So enough to where I listened to it a second time. So I liked it enough to give it another shot too. Maybe in a couple days, if it's in my head, maybe they get more listens. Okay, so what else do we got? We got questions. We got things. We have some pen questions. Pen meaning these are the ones that came early, and we also have some leftovers from last week too. So I'll get all those. Ryan Andring said, "Hey, what's my favorite PRS model, Phil?" Hey, Ryan. Hey, it's good to see you. Ryan's from back in the days of the store. He came in the store, took lessons there. So he says, "What's my favorite PRS model?" The Mira, by far. Look, I know Nathan. My buddy Nathan made me a custom 24, and it's amazing. And I'm really thankful to have that guitar. That being said, aside from that guitar, the one that Nathan made me, I'm looking around just to be sure, and I'm feeling pretty confident. I have a PRS S2 semi-hollow, and I have a Mira, which is a core one, the 24 fret version, not the newer one. If I only had two PRSs, if I were only going to keep two PRSs besides the one my friend made me, it'd be those two, without a doubt. I have never been able to, and I think I've talked about this before, I've never been able to get into the PRS carve. It cuts into my arm. They sound cool. They play great. They're fun. I have a custom 24 besides one Nathan gave me. I have a custom 22. And a lot of the guitars I have from PRS are kind of like some other guitars I have. They serve a purpose, so there's something about them that I was after when I got them and why I have them. But as for a guitar that appeals to me, by far the S2 semi-hollow for me is amazing, and the Mira, and I've never played a core that I've liked as much as those guitars, just because of the comfort, the way the arm carves are. So there you go. Like I think I said this a couple weeks ago, didn't I? I said if I ever won the lottery and got millions of dollars, the first thing I would do is take sanding. I would sandpaper and fix all of my core PRSs. Fix meaning ruin, but make them great. So that's for me. I like the S2 series the most. More than the cores. And they really cut back on the S2. So you guys know, it's a little segue. I like it when we get a question, we can get into a segue of something that's come up recently. If you guys aren't aware, I made a prediction a couple months ago, maybe it was a couple weeks ago, this stuff kind of goes by fast. And I was saying that I would not be shocked if we started seeing manufacturers start slimming down SKUs and focusing, and automatically, I guess that was pretty on the nose, because it is definitely, the case, right? So that being said, if you go on to PRS's website right now, you'll see that the S2s have been slimmed down a lot. Now, that didn't recently just happen. That's been happening, but I'm just saying you're seeing that. So if you're like me and you like the S2s, keep in mind there's a lot less. There was two, if you live in my area, there's two amazing S2s and white ones at the local Sam Ash, which is the only Sam Ash in the Phoenix area. Dirt cheap. Dirt cheap. I almost feel like telling them, you should raise the price on those, but they're big boys. They price their stuff accordingly. So there you go. Let's see. Randy Mick Adams says, "I know Paul, and I will tell him you said that." So I once got a factory tour in 2009 from Paul, and we were walking through the factory, and I picked up a body. I wasn't thinking, I didn't think about the fact that it's kind of like, where's your manners? You know, I was in somebody else's home, so to speak. That's how I kind of treat, you know, a factory when I'm there. It's their home. So I'm just ratting myself out. I wasn't thinking, and I grabbed a body off this, I don't know, desk or table or something in the factory in the middle of us talking. And I said, see, Paul, you should just take and sand this arm carve right there and then make the neck unfinished, and it would be my perfect guitar. And then he said something to the fact of, yeah, we'll do that if you just go to private stock. And so, you know, yeah, if I want to spend 10 grand, I can have the guitar I want. So yeah, he knows. He doesn't care, but he knows. So anyways, but yeah, I like the S2s. Syndicate says SE will replace S2 eventually. Probably. I would imagine to some degree there would be some phasing. S2, again, this is all speculative. You know, I haven't asked them. I'm sure if I reached out and asked them, they might tell me some stuff. But S2 came about because of the recession. They were trying to make affordable stuff, keep people working, you know, and let's face it, regardless of the guitar boom that will now always be referred to as the COVID guitar boom, pre-COVID guitar boom, we were in a boom. We were already doing well as an industry. 2019 was a great year across the board for the musical MI side of the business, the guitar sales and amp sales. So then to walk into what everybody thought was going to be, you know, like the crash in 2020, end up being more of a boom. It's been a few years now. You'd really, I wouldn't be shocked if they would kind of back off the S2 line a little bit. So. Let's see. What else do we want to talk about? Well, we still got to grab other questions. The other question came from Michael, who said, hey, Phil, he says, Patreon Pop here. What are your thoughts on swimming pool routes and Strats? On paper, I disagree. Okay. I understand where you're going with that statement. Hold on. But my favorite Strats all have them. I got that, right? I have a lot of feelings like that. Like I said, I would use the same term, on paper. In other words, you know, in theory, don't like them. You know, my Friedman S-style guitar, which is very, very good. It's definitely one of the best Strat sounding guitars I have, without a doubt. It has a swimming pool route. A big one, too. I mean, it's a big chunk sticking out of there. The Somnium guitar I have essentially has a swimming pool route because a big chunk sticking out of the center. The first time, you know, how I even discovered my first swimming pool route guitar, Strat, and let's be clear for everybody who may not know what we're talking about. For a few years, Fender did this thing where, you know, how we talk about when they route underneath the pickup, they'll put a humbucker size, then a single coil, then a single coil, or 3 single coils, or humbucker, single humbucker. And the made in Mexico ones are traditionally known to have like a bigger route holes, you know what I mean? So slightly larger than a single, slightly larger than a humbucker. The certain years of Fenders, I think it was like the late 90s, early 2000s, around that time. Again, I'm just guessing off the years again. They would just do what sounds like what it is, a big swimming pool route, a big giant hole, right? And that way you can put whatever you want in the pick guard. And a lot of people complained because they said all that material taken out of there, all that wood out of there, killed the sustain, killed the tone of the guitar, and changed it. What's funny about that story, Ben says I call it a bathtub route. Yeah, you can call it whatever you want. Fender has no official, I don't think so, official swimming pool route. I think it's all slang talk, so you can do whatever you want. But what I was going to say was the first time I ever found one, I didn't know what I had. I was playing a Strat, and it was loud, acoustically. Like I was strumming it, and it had a acoustic hollow sound that sometimes you hear on guitars like Dane Electros, or, you know, some of these weird, you know, particle board type guitars where they're semi-hollows, you know, and they just kind of ring out a little bit. This Strat was ringing out, and I didn't know why. It was, you know, it was early on in my career, and I don't know what happened, but at some point, maybe a day or two later, I opened up the guitar, I pulled the pickguard off, and I was like, what the hell did somebody do this guitar? And that's through investigating, I learned the swimming pool route. So what's interesting was I actually liked that guitar, and I liked the way it sounded. Like not only acoustically was it sounding great, but when I plugged it in, it just had a great tone. So it was one of those things where I didn't get a chance to have a preconceived notion of a swimming pool route. So that's the interesting thing that happened to me is like I didn't go, I hear about them because usually you hear negative things about them, right? And then if you get one, you can have this preconceived conception, or perception. I'm sorry, but anyways, the cool part is for me is that I thought it was great and then it didn't affect me, so I don't really mind it either. And so, like you said, on paper, yeah, maybe it's not the best thing, but doesn't affect me. Declan says, is that a Larry Carlton H7 behind you? Okay, I'm going to try it. One shot. Ready? I knew it. The reverse camera gets me again. I can't figure out which way to look. It's not even on the right side. This is you guys probably think I'm just messing with you guys. It's not. I have no idea which way I'm looking. Yes, that is a Larry Carlton H7. The people at Sire, the owner of Sire, when I bought a Sire H7. Wait, no, what I didn't. I bought a Sire L7, and I did a review, and then I sold that guitar on Reverb to probably, I don't even think it was a viewer. I think somebody just bought it on Reverb. As I do from time to time, you guys talked about Sire guitars. I had no hookups or anybody at Sire, and so I just bought one and did a review of it. The owner obviously liked the video. He sent me a very nice message and asked me and let me know that if I ever want to buy any of them, he'll give me a deal. And then shortly after that, I said, okay, thanks. If you guys mention any more, I'll do that. And then he reached out again and said, actually, we'd like to send you a couple. But because everybody, like everybody else, they don't have any guitars. He goes, the only one we can send you is the H7. So that's the Hollow Body 7. So it came, yes. And I've already did the video. I just haven't edited it. It will not be out next. There's the Sterling CT50 video is before that video. And so is another video that will be out before that video. They're already like mapped out, I guess, is how I kind of do it. I do first draft editing and then I kind of go from there. So yes, that's the answer. Yes, it is. And that's how it got here. And then I think I mentioned this on a live show before. He talked about sending me 2 other guitars, 2 of the Strat style ones. And we talked about doing a giveaway. When we get those guitars, we'll do a giveaway. Because he's talking about sending 2 of those. See, I changed the curtains and all of a sudden everybody's got questions about the backdrop now. Somebody's asking if those are zither stands. They are zither stands. Yes. The answer is yes. Yeah, Bud says he's basically saying, yeah, for a while I was doing well with pointing, and then it just went wrong. Sean Brooks says, Phil, you should hire an editor. That would be the last thing I would ever hire. I think the editor actually gets to tell the story. They get to make the video. I've thought about this. I just don't know why anybody would care. Right? But, showing my video making process, it's extremely long. My process is extremely long. If I can get a video done in under 2 days, that's good for me. 2 days is usually. So when you watch a 7 to 15 minute video from me, that's 6 to 8 hour days of work minimum to make a video for me. And my patrons can tell you too, the re-edits are crazy. They usually get a first draft. They very rarely get anything more than a first or a second draft. And there's usually 4 or 5. When I mean drafts, I mean, sometimes the whole entire video is changed based on how so I would never hire an editor. The editor that I would want, it would be impossible because again, it would be, I'd rather edit them and have somebody else in them. I'd rather film somebody else do it all and I edit it together. I think I could tell the story better as the editor than I can as the person in front of the camera. Sean says, I hate editing videos. I do too. It takes, it's like I said, it's hours of chopping on stuff and doing stuff. And, until I feel like it's an entertaining video, to some degree. But yeah, but luckily for me, the person I have helping me now works with the companies. That's the thing I don't like to do is talk to the companies. they usually have a lot of questions, and I don't have an easy answer for anybody, so it's kind of difficult. Okay, let's see. Let's do, oh, I have some more questions. Let's get back to, let me get back on track. Okay. John said, I installed the Blackstock pickups in my Eric Clapton Strat yesterday by myself. I hope to polish the frets and complete the setup tomorrow. And rock out with them tomorrow. Oh, great. I'd love to hear your thoughts, of course. You know what I mean? That's the Copperhead set of Blackstock pickups. So far, so good. Everybody seems to like them. It's been a really nice thing, keeping me busy, which is nice. Because I hate to not be busy. Let's see. Rob, and by the way, if I didn't say so, John, thank you. Only thing, John, so you know, I don't know if I sent you a message or let you know, you're getting a shirt. I just don't know when they come. They've been ordered. I ordered shirts through Teespring, you know, they do their own thing, man. They ship whenever they feel like it. They do whatever they feel like it. But I ordered it and I paid for it, and it should be to you eventually. So there you go. Rob says, hey, Phil, is it a problem if some of the strings don't pass directly over the pickup pole pieces? No. I mean, ideally, you want them to be centered on the pole pieces. That's ideal. This is one of those, again, arguments for the ages, you know what I mean, about, you know, that stuff. I don't know. Here's what's funny. Here's why. I'm going to give you from this perspective, and you tell me what you guys think. I've had so many people bring their guitars over the years where their guitars, like the pickups are misaligned. Sometimes the screws are bent and the pickups are like off center from the strings altogether. And sometimes they put the wrong pickup frames on, or sometimes it's just the guitar is just set up, you know, incorrectly from the get-go. But all these reasons, I've dozens of reasons why the pole pieces are never lined up to the strings. And no one's ever brought a guitar to me and said, oh, I don't hear, you know, there's a tonal problem with it. And usually I recenter them up if I can. And again, no one ever notices. No one ever says, man, it's really singing now. So there you go. So I wouldn't worry about it, is what I'm saying. The question I get asked a lot is like the tremolo space humbuckers, you know, in the bridge. Do you need those? I don't think you need them. I put them, if I'm ordering a pickup for a tremolo, I'll order a trim spaced pickup for it. But, you know, me personally, I don't care. I'll shove the regular space pickup in there. No problem. Most of the time, the pickups I like don't even come in tremolo space, so it wouldn't matter anyways. What else? 066 666 36 says, just went to check the mail earlier and Friedman small box pedal was in there. Thanks. I didn't get mine yet, but I ordered it. Or maybe I did and I just haven't picked it up. But so you know, I was like, I actually had a new guitar day yesterday, or it might have been Wednesday, and I still haven't opened that up. It's just been, you know, sometimes I got to stay focused on other stuff before I get to stuff. Ben is just talking about the editing process. Every minute of a video you see is usually an hour's worth of work. Yeah, it's about that. It depends. Like I said, it depends on how you make your content. You can make content much faster. So, okay. We have a little bit more. We have John. No, I did John. We have I think it's Roe Guitar God. Roe Guitar God says, hey, Phil, what is your opinion on gear channels? Oh, they're horrible. Just kidding. Okay, what is my opinion on gear channels? Mainly Trogley. Okay, we'll see why that is in a second. Talking about price on gear. Scalpers seem to have increased. It seems to be one of the reasons. You know, I don't really agree with that statement, but I understand. I agree with the theory of that. Let me tell you where I've landed on this, because as I think of this, I'm someone who's on that other side of the fence, the person causing the problem. So let's talk about that. I used to I used to, worry about that. Like if I talk about a used guitar, especially used guitars can be problematic. I did a couple videos back in the day where I'm like, guitars no one ever heard of and great deals, on guitars, and of course. And then within months, sometimes weeks of those videos, people would start putting in the comments. It would go from, Phil, that's a great suggestion. Thanks, I bought one. It's great. And then a couple weeks later, it'd be, Phil, the prices on those things have gone crazy, right? And so I've said this before. I'll keep saying this. Look, when anyone on these platforms, okay, makes a video on a subject, on a thing that you might be interested in, I think there's only two smart plans you can execute. Immediately make the purchase before that the explosion happens, or wait until it dies down again, because it's come down again. And I've seen it many times. I have seen where and I'm just picking on myself because it's easy. I've seen where I made a video on a product or a guitar, new or used, and the price shoots up, and then literally 6 months later, it's back to where it was, or sometimes lower. So it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes it can go up and stay up, but the other thing I was going to tell you, the reason why is perspective is what I've really learned is I started backing off doing stuff like that. I was like backed off. I'm like, I'm not going to talk about products. I'm not going to get all people high focused on something. And then I kind of realized that it's just us. Like it feels like a lot of people. You know what I mean? Even if you get 100,000 views or 10,000 views on a video or 1,000 views, you think that's a lot of people, but it's really not. So it's like how I look at it is I'd rather you guys know the information than somebody else. What I realized is that the group I care about, the core audience, you see the information way in advance before. Think about this: you guys see the videos, then you react to the videos, then YouTube, then suggests these videos to people outside the subscribers and stuff. So that's why. But yeah, the only thing that sucks is if he doesn't do those videos. I'm talking about Trogley. If he doesn't do a video on that stuff, if he doesn't highlight that stuff, he doesn't talk about prices. Well then, what would we talk about? This is the stuff I think we're interested in, right? So, yeah. So I understand the downfall of it, but I also understand that there's worse things out there. And like I said, you don't need this stuff. I tell people all the time, please wait until you get the deal. If that's what matters to you. So, hold on a second. Okay, let's see. And then a couple more questions just because they're coming up. This is just a different angle in the room. I've said this before. This is what I stare at. So when you guys see me and I'm like, hey guys, although I don't really do that anymore, but I say, hey guys, today I'm checking out and I'm sitting in my chair and there's a wall of guitars behind me. Well, this is what I'm staring at. That's why, to cut the echo. I used to originally in this room, I used to use sound dampening material, and then I hung drapes. Actually, I didn't even do it. My wife did it. She put drapes. My entire, this wall and this other wall to my right is drapes. And I can move them all the way if I want. So there you go. And I think I just lied to somebody. Who did I just lie to? Somebody says, oh, what's behind the drapes? And I said, nothing, a wall and a window. That's actually not true. There's a window behind there, but there's also guitars behind there too. There's guitars hanging on the walls. The drapes are out far enough from the walls that they can go over guitars. And so I can have drapes when I'm filming, and then I open them up and you can see guitars. So I don't know. It's what you do when you maximize a small room. I have a small room and I've maximized it to the max. Rick wants to know, he goes, how do I keep from getting emotionally attached to guitars or other gear? I can't get rid of anything, especially if I made it play or sound better. I don't, it happens. I was going to say it doesn't happen, but it does, but it doesn't happen very often. So every once in a while, I don't want to let a guitar go. And, But most of the time, no, most of the things I review don't stay. It's very rare for something I reviewed that wasn't specifically in the video purchased. You know, I purchased it for me. It's very rare. Like I bought my my Gibson Les Paul Gold Top in a video. Obviously, that was a video about me buying a Gibson Gold Top Les Paul. It wasn't about reviewing one. So obviously, I kept it. My two Kiesels that you see behind me, I had these custom made. And so, of course, those aren't for review. That's not review fodder stuff. You know what I mean? It's literally like I wanted it and what I was up to. The H7 is for review. So whether it stays or goes is up in the air, but it's for review. So it depends, man. You just can't keep everything. That's what it really comes down to. Yeah, well, let me back up. I can't keep everything. I've met a bunch of YouTube channels that actually keep like most of the gear and just put it in like storage and stuff, and it's awesome. But yeah, not me. I can't do it. Okay. Did I get all the intro questions? I did. Double checked, and we are good. Okay, let me hit some of these other questions real quick. I'm just refreshing the screen. And here we go. I want to thank Steve for doing a super chat real quick while I'm reading these. Greg says, Happy Friday, Phil. I received my KNG coffee mug. Know Your Gear coffee mug, and it's in my morning rotation with my Pure S mug. Awesome. Thank you. Hey, man. First, that's pretty cool of you just to super chat to tell me you bought a mug. The super chat costs more than the mug, I think, but I appreciate it. Actually, it's a little bit less, but you get the idea. Thank you. It's a lot of kindness to throw at me. Litvey did the bird with a thumbs up. I just want to give a shout out for that. Travis says, I have a made in Mexico Strat with locking tuners, G-string rings harmonic between the nut and the tuner. Okay, that's important because that's going to be one of two issues. And he says, fix with string trees on the DNG or a 3-string GBE tree, something else. So couple things. If your string is ringing, especially like a harmonic tone between the nut and the tuner, and especially a locking tuner, there's a couple things I would do. One, I would definitely restring that guitar, either all the strings or that string, put a new string, and make sure it's not just the way it clamped and it's not the angle and just not the string, and solve that problem. Once you do that, if it still persists, don't cut the string. Right, just lock it through and do it. If it still persists, what I would do is then swap that tuner with another tuner that's the same height on the headstock, and see if the problem either goes away or if the problem moves with that tuner. That would definitely help you fix that problem. And then if that doesn't solve it, then that would help you understand that it's probably what's happening is the slot in the nut is not cut straight. And that's what's causing the problem. It's probably cut just a little jacked up. Sometimes when you bring guitars to me in, sometimes I'm lucky and I can just kind of hit that slot and try to straighten it out and try to take into the curve or the angle out of that slot. That sometimes will help. And then that's what I would do. I would do all those things before I do a string tree. And I like string trees, as I've said. I'm fine with them. They're just fine. When I say I like them, I mean I just don't dislike them. But all of those things are a lot cheaper. Think about this. A string is cheap. Swapping tuners is cheap. And if you have to do the nut, then that I might take to a tech if I was in your position and see if they can solve the problem and do that. And then, like I said, because I've kind of given you some diagnostic possibilities, bring that up to the tech and ask if it's that. Let them look at it before they charge you and take the guitar. Just say, hey, I've done these things. I was told by somebody that it might be the slot is not cut straight in the nut, or there's an issue with the slot in the nut. Could you take a look at it and can you fix it? And sometimes they might just replace the nut. Or you can just do that. So either way. Matt says, thank you. Thank me. You helped inspire me to start making pedal videos in 2020, and it's paying off. Companies have started working with you. Onward and upward. Congratulations. I'm glad I inspired you to make content. I wish I could give you some advice, but I don't do very many company videos. So what I can tell you from the companies I work with is I work with a few. I think they're great. The rest, they're interesting. So, John owns 6, can't play any ruddy. Sure. It says, hey, Phil, worked on my brother's Epiphone Les Paul. He has 1 fret that is low. You notice I'm grunting. That's not a good sign. I'm guessing the only way to fix it is a full fret level. Is that correct? Causes G and B strings to bottom at the 10th fret. So the answer isn't that easy. So let me just say it this way. Yes, if you crown and level the entire thing, should you be able to eliminate that problem and fix it? Yes. Sometimes you're saying, I thought you said it was on the 10th fret. Why do I think that? So a fret, it has 1 fret that is low. Oh yeah, it's the bottom of the 10th fret. So here's the deal. Sometimes when the problem is at the high end of the fretboard, around the 10th, 12th, between let's say the 15th and the 9th fret, or even higher up than that, sometimes you can get away with just leveling those frets. There's a couple of ways you can look at this. Like I said, I do whatever I can to not remove material from guitars. So whether it be fret material or wood, that's just what you instinctively try to do. My dog's freaking out. Without looking at it, crown and level sounds like the course of action. Michael says, I got a Victory V40 Deluxe combo to use as a pedal platform, but I don't know what pedals I like with it. Should I get an HX effects like the HX Stomp to find what I like, or just buy and try trade pedals? I think because I learned the way most of us learned with pedals is buying one and then, trading and buying and trading and buying. That way was the way that was available to us. And now that you don't have to do that, I don't think that's the best course of action. I would look at like the HX Stomp or the M9 by Line 6 or, any of those type of units. Get one used, get it dirt cheap, right? And use it as a learning tool. I use that HX Stomp over here. I use this pedal all the time. This thing is definitely a go-to for me for everything. So, I recommend it fully, especially if you can buy it used or save yourself some money. And it's a great piece of tech, and it will do everything you need it to, and it will definitely educate you on the pedals. They're color-coded. They tell you what they are. I would go that route. Fred says, humidity. Okay. He's like, acoustic guitar. He's in the desert living. So he's living like me. He's in the desert. He goes, I got an Epi Hummingbird. He goes, OMG. He's very excited about the Epiphone Hummingbird. I'm really curious about those guitars too. It's solid wood, spruce mahogany versus laminated. Wait. Yeah. It is solid. Yes. And it's not laminated. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. Room varies between 25 to 40% humidity, which is actually really good. If you're in the desert, that's really good. Average home in where I live is 5 to 10% humidity. So you're doing good. He says there's an aquarium in the corner. That's probably helping it keep the humidity up, of course, because all that water's got to go somewhere. And he says, worries, question mark. Well, here's the deal. You can't, in the desert, you can't over humidify a guitar. It's just not going to happen. You can try. You're going to fail. So, I don't feel that you have to humidify a guitar too much. It's not something I worry about with my acoustics. However, like I said, it depends on how many acoustics. I've learned over the years that I could tell people the truth, which is I've never humidified acoustic before. And, but I've also, my personal ones, I've never humidified them, but I have friends that have like 10 acoustics and 15 acoustics, high-end ones, and they have to. Those guitars will suck. If they're in the room together, they'll just start sucking all the moisture out of the air until they start having problems. So, it's a pretty easy thing. Just 25 to 40% is good. I think Taylor Taylor recommends 60%. But like I said, if you're getting 25% in the desert, you're doing really good. It's pretty impressive. Let's see. Andriel says, had my Stratocaster plecked at Sweetwater. Amazing. Thanks for the advice. Well worth it. I'm glad you mentioned that. That video is almost done as well. So I'm doing that video again. I have the Squire, the Affinity that I had plecked, and I'm doing okay, it's been 3-4 months later now. Where does it sit now? And, and something special with that. It's like a Sharp Max video kind of vibe thing. So I'm glad you had a good experience with that. Vimps69 says, "Hey Phil, happy Friday. Took your advice on a pickup installation. Thank you for the great advice. Keep up the entertained. Oh, keep us entertained. Cheers." And he said cheers, so I'm gonna say cheers too. Let me hit 2 more and I'll go back to the main page. Pablo says, "Any advice on starting a channel and doing a giveaway?" Don't. Not to starting the channel, the giveaway. Also, what software do you use to record and demo your videos? Okay, first advice, don't do giveaways. They're horrible. I do them all the time. They are, look, doing dumb things, that's on me. Advising you to do dumb things, that doesn't feel morally right to me. Let me walk you down how all giveaways work. And I've talked to every YouTube channel. No, I've talked to 24 YouTube channels. And they all have the same stories I have. The winner, half the time you can't get anybody to actually, most of the time I have to pick 3-4 winners eventually, pick one, then they don't respond. You pick another one, then they don't respond. There you go. And then, shipping it's a nightmare. I've had stuff get lost, and then I've had where a company provided it, and then it was insured, so it got insured, and then I got the money, and then I had to buy it and then ship it out. And I mean, it ends up consuming a lot of time. But what you really learn about it is, everyone told me not to do it. And I mean, literally, every channel told me it was a nightmare. Don't do it. And I would just do them. And the logic is that you're going to get viewers from this. But I can tell you right now, what I've always experienced is the viewers or subscribers you get from it usually unsub as soon as the contest is over. A big majority of them. The rest that don't just forgot to. And most of them aren't interested in your content. So you're bribing people to like your content is just not the best thing to do. So I used to do them all the time. And then what I've slowly done now is just, now it works the other way, which is if a company wants to, I just did the Stu Mac giveaway on Instagram, and I'm very upfront about the fact that I could give 2 shits about Instagram. I don't even post on Instagram on a regular basis. I can tell you right now, if I post on Instagram, this is horrible, but it's just, this is what happens. I base my channel on just the truth. I'm bored to tears probably when I'm posting on Instagram. It's probably oh man, I'm just sitting here and I got nothing to do. I'm at the DMV and I should probably post something on Instagram. Instagram's the last thought of my day every day. For a short while, Nathan was doing it for me, and you guys seem to really like it when he did it because I think he cared. I don't. So the reason I'm telling you that is obviously when Stu Mac was like, "Hey, let's do an Instagram giveaway," I was like, "Yeah, you do it." Somebody wins something, and like I said, I felt bad if I didn't do it, and somebody won and they got $1,000 worth of tools. And, so my answer is this: I will do giveaways, whenever the company's willing to do all the work. And, cause to me, it does make sense to give you guys an opportunity to get something. But I can tell you right now that if you notice half the time or when I do them, it's never, you don't have to subscribe or any of that stuff. I could care less. So that's my advice. Don't do it. Don't do it when you're a new channel. Put that energy and focus into just the best content you can make. And then when it says, what software do you use to record your demos? I don't use a software to record it. I record them on cameras, on SD cards. And then I have Final Cut Pro. And then I have iMovie. And believe it or not, it just has to do with which computer I use. I have a large 27-inch Mac unit that has Final Cut Pro, and then I have a laptop, a MacBook, and my MacBook doesn't have Final Cut just because I didn't put it on there. And so if I grab that one for some reason, usually I'm traveling or doing something, I'll do it on iMovie real fast. But I find that most all the I don't want to make my videos look overproduced because I'm not overproduced. It doesn't feel right to me. It feels disconnected when, you know, your video is like you in your bedroom talking, and then all of a sudden there's all this fancy editing, graphics and stuff happening. It just seems a little disconnected. So I look at it like, you know, and I can tell you the same thing most everybody else tells you to. Half the time I have a successful video, it's never because I use my best cameras and my best time. I usually just grabbed my phone and did something real fast, and then all of a sudden that's the video that literally pays the bills for like a month. That's the one that got lucky. So make content, make good content, and try to stay connected to an audience. And that's a little bigger trick, is try to understand what your audience even cares about. So that's my advice. Grumpy Mike Guitar. Speaking of a YouTube channel, we'll talk about Grumpy Mike Guitar. He says, for the tip jar, he said tone jar, but he says, and why not? Just pulled my S2 out after a couple months. I've fallen in love all over again. It's a great guitar. It is. I think S2s are great. I've talked about this before. I had the Nags Sovereign, which I love, but I wanted the X because it's got the 12-inch radius fretboard instead of the 8-inch. And the only thing holding me back from a Nags is every time I played a Nags, they are fantastic, but they also feel kind of like my S2. I kind of felt like my S2 was very Nags-like in the way it felt and played and sounded even. It was just, you know, and that's a huge price difference, you know. Is it time? Maybe I have some stuff written down. Sometimes I try to find a good over talking to have a segue. This is probably a good time to talk about this. You know, stuff keeps coming up recently about, you know, expensive guitars versus cheap guitars. Obviously, YouTubers, we delve into that a lot as videos. You guys will click on them, and so it's interesting content. We all seem to make it. What's funny about this is I have this. I'm gonna share this with you guys. I have this notepad on my phone. I don't know why I just showed that to you. It was just blinding light, and I put all my video ideas. Okay. So what I do, how I make videos is, these are all video ideas, and I write down video ideas all the time. And one of the things I had or put an idea about down was why I've never reviewed my high-end guitars. And this is why I'm talking about this, because it was a kind of interesting thing that just recently happened this week. I've never reviewed any of my high-end guitars. In fact, if any of you even know about them, it's just because they make a short appearance sometimes in the background of the videos. And let's be clear, most of the time it's just because I'm not paying attention to what's behind me. You'd think I would. I know everybody thinks I'm arranged the guitars. Sometimes I do, but I really never did it until people talked about it. So anyways, the reason I don't really review the higher end guitars, especially mine, is because it's a conversation that's so long and so deep that it's hard to explain. So, and this is why I'm going to get there with this. All of my expensive guitars are my cheap guitars. Here's why. So there's this video, and it always kind of comes to mind. I did a video a few years ago, and it was on this $10,000 Petrucci guitar. A customer of mine had brought it in for fret sprout. So yeah, it was a $10,000 Music Man Petrucci that needed fret sprout taken care of in stainless steel. And he took it to the shop, and I don't know if they did a bad job or if they just wouldn't do it. Anyways, he brought it to me, and I did the fret sprout. And then he said when he was leaving, oh, and I wouldn't care if you did a video with it as well. And so I did a video where I showed that guitar. That guitar and that video make me chuckle to this day. If you go to that video, the majority of the comments are, well, one, the guitar is ugly, the guitar is stupid, no guitar should cost $10,000, this is dumb, he's dumb, you're dumb, everyone's dumb. Here's what's funny about that. So about, I want to say 6 months to a year later, he sold that guitar. He doesn't have it anymore. He sold the guitar for like $12,000. So he bought it for 10, he sold it for 12. Fees, BS, all that stuff. He probably walked away flat. In other words, he maybe made a couple $100 or he cut a flat. But what's really interesting is this. He bought a guitar for 10 grand, played it for about a year, sold it, didn't cost him anything. I was curious the other day. I was looking up those guitars, those Nomax. People are asking like 25 grand, 15 grand for them. So the reason is I really think this is the bigger part of the discussion. There are a lot of guitar players, professionals, right? We know Joe Bonamassa is like this for sure. Non-professionals, right? People who are in the industry, just players that are touring players, right? Not famous people per se. And they buy high-end guitars. And there's this thing, if you know what you're buying when you're buying it, it doesn't really cost you anything. And two, you usually make money on it. So like when people talk about these Tom Murphys, these Gibson custom shops, Fender custom shops, high-end guitars, it's a really tricky thing. I don't own a high-end guitar that I've paid full price for. And every high-end guitar, I was just looking the other day, because again, all this came up in this idea for a video. And what I figured out was if I sold all my high-end guitars right now, they would sell for about 3 times what I paid for them. So all the money I have into them, I would make 3 times what I paid back. So basically, say safe to say double. You learn over time that if you know how to buy the higher end guitars, they actually hold and grow the fastest and the most. But there is a lot to it, and just like anything like that, you have to be prepared to take it when it goes wrong on you, because it can go wrong. You can buy a $5,000 guitar that literally will only sell for $2,500, and $2,500 loss is sometimes a lot to take. So the reason I brought that all up was this keeps coming up, this, high-end guitars and whether they're worth it or other. And I keep trying to explain to everybody, I don't know why everybody has trouble compartmentalizing things. Like, they go, oh, if you have a bunch of guitars, you're a collector, you're not a player. But you can be a player and a collector, right? You can be a hobbyist and you can be in the industry, right? So it's kind of funny that everybody wants to kind of pigeonhole this into like one logic. You know what I mean? But there's a lot to this. And that's why I thought maybe that's a video to talk about. But the reason I've always refrained from it is because it's not something you can just teach somebody in a video and go, okay, now go out and take your money and start buying high-end guitars. It'll work out, I promise. Sean Brooks says, Phil, are you telling me my something? I don't know, it jumped. He says, are you telling me my 2000 something Squire won't appreciate? I think that's what he just said, but it jumped. No, guitars appreciate, but rare guitars that are hard to get, if you buy the right ones. Look, if you buy the right ones, like I said, you make money. When you buy the wrong ones, you lose money. However, the reason I'm talking about this is you have to understand there's a lot of times when you see somebody like, and this is what came up a lot this week, was let's talk about the Gibson custom shops. I have an RO and an R9. The reason that is because they're, like I said, literally they're worth more than I paid for them. I have less into them than what I can sell them for. They're not so much I bought them as investments. I bought them because I get to play them, and then when I'm done with them, they'll go. Most players that have them will tell you the same. They bought them and they play them for a while, and then they sell them if they want to, or just looking at comments real quick as we're kind of going back and forth on this. So anyways, let me know if you're interested in that type of video, if you think that's something. But like I said, it's really tricky to me. I see players all the time, and there's really no real honest conversation about this. You know what I mean? Especially players like, I don't want to say like me, but in the idea that that I have these guitars that are $500-600 and I love them and I'm playing them. And then you see a guitar that's much more expensive. There's a different logic to why I bought each one, is what I'm trying to say. I don't look at them as the same thing. They're different to me. There's different reasons why I bought them. So, all right, let's go back to the next question. Maybe we'll come back to that. Jeff Child says, hey, Phil, recent patron here. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, especially. The patron is, like I said, that's the thing that supports the channel the absolute most. He says, okay, he's curious, okay? He says, just curious. I picked up a Dirty Shirley pedal, and I wonder what you would do about an amp choice for said pedal. Thanks. You put that in anything. That thing's basically like a beautiful preamp. Stick that in front of your Fender amp, stick it in front of your Blackstar amp, stick it in front of your spark. It will sound great. It's good. I like that amp. I think those are the Dirty Shirley pedal and the Freeman BE pedal. I think they're going to be referred to one day as classics. There's a lot of great pedals out there, but those pedals are definitely they did well because they did well because they're great. So, yeah, you can put them in front of anything. DWC says, for the tip jar, thanks for all that you teach us every week. I feel like lately it's just been asking me questions and I'm just telling you about my feelings about things, but that's okay. Maybe we'll get to something teachable in a second, but thank you for the compliment. Jim says, Phil, thanks for the great advice on the Gibson Flying V, Engel Fireball amp and cabinet. With the discount, it was cheaper to buy new versus used in mint condition. Fun weekend ahead. Yeah, I'm telling you guys. So, okay, so let's talk about this. A couple things. I've already said this a couple times. I'm going to keep hitting it. I still think the best decision in this used market is to buy new because you can get better deals new. I just, like I said, I had a new guitar day this week, but I haven't opened it yet. I just bought a new guitar, and I literally bought that guitar for $150, I want to say. Less than everyone is asking for it used. Everyone. Like I went on Reverb before it arrived and even looked again. And yep, even trying to find a deal used, I was able to find a dealer give me a smoking deal new. And it wasn't even hard. It was just, I don't even think I asked. I think I just said, hey, if you have any deals, that'd be great. And they were like, here you go. And so, yeah, there's still deals to be had. That lets me show you some things I've been paying attention to. One thing I pay attention to is on Reverb is how many listings are going up. Think of it like the more listings, the more obviously inventory. That tells you if people are selling more. Obviously, looking at how the sales have happened. And without a doubt, when you look, let me look. I'm going to share this with you. This is when I looked at, this is Reverb's data, by the way. When I looked up and looked at what a used USA Stratocaster is going for. If you look at this graph that Reverb has, it lets you know first the asking price and the final price in green is always lower than the asking price. So people are not getting what they're asking for those guitars. But if you look at January, people are asking 1,300, right? And getting like 12. But if you look now, they're getting again under 1,000, to 900. And this is going to be really obscure, but I've always looked at the Ibanez Universe guitars. As you guys know, I always talk about the fact that, I always wanted one of those Swirl 7-string guitars. And when you looked on a graph, look at this. Same thing. They were floating for about 5,000, which is what I've been seeing them go for the last year or two. And then people all of a sudden jacked them up to 10 grand. Looks like one sold or something sold. And then now look, coming back down again. They're floating back down to the $5,000-$6,000 range. The reason I share that with you is that's, again, what I call anecdotal data. That's not across the platform. That's just a couple guitars. But I did look at a bunch of other guitars. I screen grabbed these just because I thought it might be interesting to talk about on Friday. When I was looking at a lot of guitars, and you can do this to almost any guitar on Reverb. You can go in and look at, they gave you the history of how it's been selling. Everything is coming down. Used. Because I was only looking at used stuff. So used stuff is coming down in price. So I'm just letting you be aware. And that's probably because the inventory is climbing a little. And again, this isn't, somebody said, sale, get rid of your gear. No, not even that. Because again, I'm not predicting and nor am I implying that there's going to be a bottom crash to the used gear market. What I'm saying is that obviously we were at a peak and the peak eventually has to taper off. And I think we're seeing the taper off. It looks like that's what's been going on. Is that. So, and again, so that's good. But until I can find a good deal on a used guitar, I'll keep buying new ones for better deals. So there you go. Some more information. Again, and this is kind of like goes back to that question earlier about Trogley's channel and channels talking about this stuff. It's us. Think about this. You're here on a Friday afternoon, hanging out, talking to me. This is the stuff we're talking about. The reality is the majority out there, players, are not watching this channel or channels like this they could care less about this stuff. It doesn't matter to them. And that's good. So like I said, I don't worry about like, you know what I mean? This isn't like the Oprah show and she says something and then all of a sudden half of America, has all this information, and what do you do with that? This is a very select group of players who have this information. So let's see. What else? All right. All right. I'm laughing. Some of you guys' comments back and forth are great. One day I would love to figure out how to do this show where I'm not here. I just with you guys in the comments enjoying that. Sometimes I feel like you guys are having way more fun than I am by far. And good on you. So Gonzalo, hey, what's up, Gonzalo? Did you get married last week? He says, hey, Phil, thoughts on a road worn series? Anything you think? Hey, you just got a PRS. Didn't your girlfriend just buy you a new PRS and you're talking about a road worn Strat now? Don't let her watch this because she's going to figure out you have a problem. She's okay. Okay, let me get to your question. Let me stay focused. I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic. So anyways, is anything you think I should upgrade on it? So basically he's looking at road worn series guitar. I like the road worn guitars as they sit. They're really good. If you change out anything, it's just for preference, not for, cause it's bad quality. Like if you want to change out the pickups or doing this stuff, I mean, it's all just preference at that point. So it's not, there's a difference between me suggesting like, oh yeah, this is not a good part, maybe upgrade this. Most of the stuff on there is as good as it needs to be. And no, I think road worn's one of those guitars you can definitely get. I sometimes caution people to not mod the road worns. One thing about them is, man, you want to talk about a guitar that can hold value is road worns. They're one of the few guitars where even then I would say buy one new when you can, because you could find a dealer sometimes to give you a smoking deal on a new one and used. They were always hard because how do you tell if they're used? They look the same. They were new. They were used new. So there you go. But Gonzalo, so I don't make you feel bad, let me tell you. Let me share a story with you. It's always my favorite story when it comes to the woman buying you a guitar or significant other buying you a guitar. The very first PRS I ever sold in my shop was a Tremonti. I think. Yep, it was a Tremonti. And so what happened was I had a customer, and he's a great guy, and he basically said to me, if I ever became, just a random thing to say, hey, if you ever become a PRS dealer, I want a Tremonti. So I don't know, a year or two later, I became a PRS dealer. PRS came in the shop, said, you want to carry the line? I'm like, sure. We ordered when we're doing the order, I thought, like any smart businessman, I called him up while my rep was there, because I'm like, oh, there was a guy, and a couple years ago he said if I ever carried the line, he'd buy one. So I called him up and said, hey, I'm ordering right now. You want one? He said yes. So he ordered one. So here's what happened. Paul Reed Smith Guitars, what they did, since it was the first order, I sent the rep. I didn't send anybody. The rep told PRS, the company, that he signed a new dealer, and this dealer had a customer that was waiting to buy this guitar until I became a dealer. So what PRS did for them is they picked them out a one-piece top. So if you guys don't know what that is, it's just the whole entire maple top is one piece of wood. It's something you usually really can't pay to have done at PRS, and they don't charge for it. It's just luck of the draw. So here's why the story is funny. So some time goes by, some months come by, the guitar shows up. It's here at the store. I call the customer. He shows up with his wife. His wife is buying it for him. And the wife comes in and she's like, yeah, this is the guitar he's been waiting for forever. And he picks up the guitar. He literally opens the case. There's a note from Paul Reed Smith himself saying, congratulations on your guitar. I heard that, you were loyal to this dealer and you wanted to buy this guitar. And, he tears up. Okay. He tears up. Like, I'm trying not to tear up, right? My wife's trying not to tear up. We're all like, this is the coolest thing, right? And so anyways, he's like playing the guitar and he's like, I love it. And his wife is ringing up, swiping the MasterCard, so to speak. And she's like, yeah, this is the guitar he's always wanted. And she's like, and I'm like, you're feeling that moment. And then literally right then, out of nowhere, like in the middle, we're still holding back tears of joy, right? Everybody's kind of just room somber. All of a sudden he looks over at the wall and he goes, but next I'm going to get that Ibanez. So this is probably not the funniest story for you guys, but it always made me laugh because that told me right then, I'm like, and that's all of us. So, yeah. So anyways, so my point to you is, I was busting your chops about wanting this guitar this week after getting guitar last week, but obviously, as you know, I understand. It's a problem. We all have it. There's worse things that you do with your money. Stay away from drugs, kids. Frederick says, hey, Phil, what is a decently priced tube amp for bass? Oh, around $1,000. I don't even know anymore. Isn't that funny? I don't even know. I haven't owned a real bass amp in 15 years. I used to play nothing but Ampeg. I had SVT2, SVT3, SVT. I had the 300 watt all tube head. Then I switched to SVT3, and then I went to SVT4, which are just two preamp bass amps at that time. But I mean, I had all tube. And let me tell you, bass players, we're not like guitar players. Right? Remember I was talking about compartmentalizing yourself and being different? Sometimes in my mind, I'm a bass player, and sometimes in my mind, I'm a guitar player whenever I'm doing, right? And when I'm in my bass player frame of mind, look, once they came out with an amp that was this big, that weighed 2 pounds, this isn't the amp, but you get the idea. Once they made a bass amp that looked like this, that I could turn up and play as loud as a guy with a Marshall half stack, I don't care. So sadly enough, I don't know what to recommend to you anymore. And like I said, I've transcended. I've transcended bass amps now. I don't even use that. I use an Eden preamp, and I'll slave into anything I can because I don't even need a bass amp anymore. Half the time, the only thing I need a bass amp for is monitor, and if I have an in-ear monitor if I need that for absolutely any reason. So. And then Sean says, Phil, do guitar players care more about tube amps than bass players? Yeah, as a whole, I would say, because, it's the tube amps are making distortion where the bass amps, some Ampeg stuff makes distortion overdrive, but usually bass players are trying to get a clean tone. Not always, but usually. So, yeah, somebody was saying Mesa. I would say if I was going to recommend a bass amp now that's made of tubes that's worth a crap, it's going to be Mesa. That'd be my guess. But again, I'm just shooting a guess, and that's really off of the Real Ducks something sign on who said Mesa. Yeah. My last tube preamp, I think, based bass amp was my Mesa Boogie Walkabout, which I absolutely love that amp, by the way. That was fantastic. And I only got rid of it because I think it was like 40 or 50 pounds, and then I switched to an amp. I went to the SWR Go Light, and my head was like 2 pounds, and the cabinet was like 15 pounds or something. That was silly. It was great. Everything in life that should be. Okay. We have... Charles says, have you ever used bondic to repair nut slots? Bondic? No. I don't know what that is. B-O-N-D-I-C. Bondic. I will Google it afterwards. No. I use super glue and baking soda, or I'll use super glue and bone dust. Those work really good for me if I have to do something like that. But most of the time, I just like to cut a whole new nut. It depends. It depends on, like, see, I've kind of, the beautiful part of, I used to repair in my store, and now I do repair for myself. When I mean myself, I mean my customers come to me and I do it for just the customers, right? There's no, like, no one's just walking up the street and like, hey, can you fix this? Like, everybody I have these relationships with. And so really no one's really coming at me anymore like they used to. I used to have to do so many repairs that were based on like, hey, I need this fixed and I have $3 in my name. Nothing wrong with that. And I don't even, by the way, I didn't hate that. It's kind of like how attorneys have like pro bono work. I always kind of saw it like that, is if you do repair at a store, you have to be willing to do a bunch of repairs for either free or dirt cheap. You know what I mean? Just for community's sake, right? And I didn't mind it because although you're not making money for your time, you know, you get benefits other ways. Like, right, maybe they'll get word of mouth, or maybe they'll buy some strings, or, you know, I mean, there's all these ways that you can do well from that kind of service. But the way I do repair now, I just don't come across that kind of work. So like fixing a nut isn't something I'm really working on all the time on. I'm usually replacing the entire nut, cutting a new one from scratch. So same thing, all my repairs are, I want to say, more higher end now. Very rarely am I fixing something on the cheap. But I will check out bondic because I'm curious. Because again, if it's interesting and I think maybe I can make a video with it and teach you guys something or learn something, and then maybe share what I learned with you. Dan says, join the 80s. He said, joined a 80s hair metal cover band. Which guitar should I get to fit the part, in your opinion? Anything under $1,700. Oh man, this is just a fun question, right? Like you could just pick anything. What's 80s hair metal band? You know what it is. It's a Jackson, it's a Charvel, it's an Ibanez. Maybe an ESP, but I would probably go, you know, one of those. 80s hair metal. See, the problem is 80s hair metal, I think it's like, oh, Kramer. Don't forget Kramer's. It's all those things. And it just depends. You know, what do you like to play? I'm trying to think, but really, I don't know. Who says you have to play an old guitar? You can just have a new one made. Like I had a Kiesel made over there, and that's 80s as hell. Look at that crackle finish, green pickups, and it plays modern and it sounds great. So, although if you're doing an 80s band, maybe you want that kind of tone. You know, you used to be able to pick up Japanese-made Jacksons on the cheap, but I don't see them anymore. So who knows? Brett says, thanks for the Floyd Rose tuning video. You're welcome, buddy. It says, I impulse bought my first. Didn't know how different they were. Tried tuning for 4 hours. Saw your video and adjusted the via claw screw. Saved my arse. Thank you again. You know, I appreciate you saying that. I don't know what it is about the Floyd. It's only the Floyd Rose videos. I've done so many videos where I'm like, how to fix this if you have this problem, or how to address this. You know, quick little fix tidbits, and only the Floyd Rose videos bring this type of viewer that's always been interesting to me. It's like they always say, like, I'll go, oh, here's how you adjust a Floyd, and they go, why do you hate Floyds? I always get the why do I hate Floyds, and I'm like, I don't hate them. I love them. I use them all the time. But this is the thing I see all the time with people on Floyd Rhodes. They have trouble adjusting them. So I made as many videos on how to adjust them super easy, and I created titles that aren't clickbait. They're just titles that I think someone who doesn't know about Floyd Rose would be searching on the internet for. And I think I nailed it because those videos have performed very well. Not only getting out to people, but like reactions like that. But it just always kind of makes me kind of chuckle when anytime anyone says thank you for one of the Floyd Rose videos, I always think about the fact that if you read those videos, like half the comments are like, this guy sucks because he hates Floyd Roses. And I'm like, I don't hate them. I'm just showing you how to deal with whatever your problem is. So I'm like, interesting. Sometimes I think when I make these videos, I'm like, does people not understand I made these videos for somebody else? Like, why would you make yourself a video? I could be wrong. Bobby says, hey, Phil, ever tried a Fishman Fluence single coils? I know noiseless singles aren't your favorite. They're not my favorite. Thank you for putting it that way. I love that. Yes, they're not my favorite. I don't hate them. They're just not my favorite. Like when somebody's like, oh, I know you hate this. I'm like, I don't know if I hate it. It's just not my favorite thing. I'm curious on your opinion of the Fishmans. I have tried very few Fishmans. I did the one video with them. I've maybe come across a few here and there in a guitar, but not really put any time into the Fishmans. And Fishman reached out to me after that video through Instagram, and I thought I responded, but then I never heard back, and it was one of those things. So, yeah, if I could ever get a connection with Fishman, I would definitely do all their pickups. Like, I would do the Great Cock pickups. I would do their single coils. I have the guitars. Like you guys know, that Somnium guitar not only does it let me change out the different pickups, but it's active or passive. It doesn't matter. So I can throw anything in there. There's another pickup video coming this Sunday. It went to the patrons today, and I think I got some couple little tidbits I'm going to change in it, but Otherwise, it'll go out to you guys just fine and dandy on Sunday. And so, yeah. But, yeah, sadly enough, I don't know a whole lot about the Fishman single coils. All right. What? Oh, you know what? Ian's saying, hey, he's like, would my Fender Sire HM2 that's over 25 years old be worth more? Yeah, probably. Right. Everything now seems to be going up. I think the logic that I've seen consistent over the years, like there's certain things that you just can't predict, or things are going to be guesses. And then there's certain things that you see, there's trends. There's just trends you see over and over again. It's so much as not that it's guaranteed that it's going to be that way. It's just you see it over and over again. One thing that seems to be consistent is the more unique your instrument, the more it will go up in value, as long as it's something everybody wanted in the first place. So, yeah, if you have a weird, and actually, you know what, I take that away. Even things that, like somebody was talking about on one of my videos, somebody was making a comment, or somebody was talking about Parker guitars and how horrible they were. And I'm like, yeah, that was a consensus for a long time. People loved them, people hated them, but mostly people didn't like them. Obviously, that's why the company went defunct eventually. It didn't have a strong market. And there's a ton of reasons why too, but I'm just saying as a whole. And now they're worth, a lot more than they ever were before, because of the fact that they're hard to get. And that happens all the time. Look at PV. Look at the PV made in the USA guitars. For a long time, you could buy those guitars for nothing. They were heavy, but they were good, and you could get them cheap. And slowly they're worth something. And it's because, again, as anything becomes more rare, it goes up in value. And that's just the way it works. And that's how Gibson and Fender and PRS have artificially made these markets, by the way. And that's not a dig or a slam. It's an observation. Gibson's custom shop, Fender's custom shop, PRS's private stock. That is essentially creating that environment. In a world where basically they're just pumping out Gibson guitars and Fenders and PRSs like there's no tomorrow, right? And I mean that because you got to understand, like, PRS is not even close to the size of Fender and Gibson, but they're still a large company. They're pumping out a lot of guitars, and I mean expensive guitars. You know what I mean? Core guitars. They're pumping out a lot of guitars. Gibson's pumping out a lot of guitars, so is Fender. These are, especially comparatively to smaller companies, much smaller companies. And so with that volume, they fill the need. In my opinion, they fill the need. However, custom shop is a way to say, okay, here's the same thing basically, except for now, we're not going to make that many of them, and therefore it's more expensive, but it also seems to hold a lot of value. So, and I could tell you this horrible story, but it goes like this. Every time I hear somebody say they bought a custom shop Fender or a custom shop Gibson or a private stock PRS or something like that, and they say I lost a ton of money on it, my only thought is one of two things. One, you probably should have held on to it longer, because eventually it will pay its dividend. In other words, it'll break even or make money. And that, did I say A or one? A, now this is B. B, you should have made sure you bought it at the right price, because that's the thing. You can't buy at the top of the price chart either for them. Cup of Noodles says, should I repair a ding in my PRS 594 and then sell, or sell and accept the loss? Well, it depends on what you think the loss is. PRSs usually took a financial hit for being dinged up. The beautiful part of the 594s is it's kind of Gibson-esque, and because of that Les Paul vibe to it, people are not as anal about the no marks. PRS buyers typically are the ones that are like, they don't want any marks at all. But that one you could probably get away with. So I don't know. I'd put it out there. I mean, here's the deal. You can put it out for the price you want and just wait and see what happens. What you'll find is it's really going to come down on your 594, like all guitars. Really what it's going to come down to is not whether it has a ding in it or not. It's going to come down if it has the right color, if it's the right looking one, right? There's just ones that people are out there looking for more than others, right? I mean, think of this. If you're in the market for a gold top Gibson Les Paul standard and you're out there on Reverb and 5 of them are out there and they all have a mark on them, but yet you can buy Cherry Burst with no mark on it. You know, some people are going to go, okay, I'd rather get the Cherry Burst and get a pristine guitar and call it a day. But some players are just going to go, no, man, I want a gold top. And so if it's dinged, I'd rather have a dinged gold top than a pristine Cherry Burst. So that's the thing. Like I said, the ding isn't the only thing that that's going to make the value of that guitar. If you have a unique color, if they discontinue that color, if it's a lighter weight, that video. Somebody asked me today about the Sweetwater video. I mentioned Sweetwater wanted to sponsor a video where I talk about all my guitars, my collection, and the weights and why I'm done this way. And then what happened was the ball got dropped or whatever. You know, something happened. We didn't communicate. So we've recommunicated, and now it looks like it's going forward again. So, and that's something I'll talk about in there. There's a reason why I think weighing guitars matters, and I'll explain in that video. And so I don't have to. So. Yeah, keep you guys in anticipation why I think the weight of guitars actually matters to the value. Okay. Hold on, I just want to make sure. All right, and let me do this is the last super chat of the day. This one is from Jay Turi, who says, my bass rig is an 88 MB1 2 preamp. That takes me back. Into a Harkey 500 watt head into a Mesa 810 cab. Thing will rattle you to death. Yeah, well, my old bass rig back in the day, we were all crazy. You're still just crazy. Good for you. I used to run my worst rig, worst meaning the most out of control I'd ever got, was my Ampeg. I had the SVP Pro preamp. So that was a 5.2 preamp, which is basically the preamp out of the SVT3. So it's a rack mount bass preamp, all 2 preamp. And I'd run that into a Ampeg 1600 watt RMS power amp. that was 1600 watts mono bridge. Or it was, obviously 800 watts aside. So I would split it. 800 watts would go into my 410 cabinet, and 800 watts would go into my 215 cabinet. So I'd run a 215 and a 410 at 800 watts aside with this preamp. It was so obnoxious. And I played bars with it. So stupid. It's so stupid. Yeah. And wear earplugs. Think of this. I'd have to plug that crap out of my ears. Thank God I did. Yeah, it was dumb. But Paul Gilbert said it best. We were all rock stars in our mind. If you were playing a bar, the next show was at the Coliseum. So you had to have the gear for the next show. It was out of control. And then last week, when I ended the show, I had 2 super chats hanging, and I'm going to hit those. Just like now, I'm not doing any more super chats for this week, but if I miss them, I'll grab them for next week. The last 2, one came from Jimmy T568, who says, Highlander guitar. My local SBA is wanting to lend me a lot of money for manufacturing. Okay. Lending's scary, but I understand what you're saying, because it sounds exciting, but... It can be and it cannot be. It depends on what it is. Since I build custom one-off guitars, I'm comfortable. The money would be expansion into main market. Is there room for another builder? Look, the room for that's the question I get all the time. And I will tell you what I tell everyone all the time. I'll tell you what this is what I told the Friedman guys about their Friedman guitars. This is what I told the Vola guys about their Vola guitars. It's what I tell everybody when I meet them. Your market is taking someone else's. That's all that exists now. That's it. Look, I'm happy, I smile, and I'm a nice guy, but when it comes to business, I'm not stupid. If you want to sell guitars in today's age, and this has nothing to do with today, like today, the date today, this is for the last 10 years, and I could go almost 20 at this point. Look, there's a reason why all the companies from the 80s and 90s got dissolved out, right? Fender now owns Jackson and Charvel, And at one point they owned Hamer and Ovation. Of course, now those are owned by somebody else. And Kramer is owned by Gibson. And BC Rich is now owned by somebody else, right? Right? And you know what I mean? It's very few companies that were started in the 70s and 80s even exist as the original owners anymore for a ton of reasons. But the main thing you have to understand is that this is the market is not it's not the market that you get, everybody gets to be happy in, where it's just booming and there's expansion to be had, right? It's not the Wild West. It's not the new frontier. The guitar musical instrument market is the already existed forever frontier. And so therefore, if you want to sell a $3,000 guitar, you have to steal someone else's sell. You have to take it. You know, the saying, you keep what you kill. Literally, if you want to sell your guitars in this market, whether they be $500 guitars, look, everybody has an idea. Everybody's idea is like, hey, Phil, how about I make $200 guitars? Yeah, great. You just got to figure out how to steal that from Harley Benton and Squire and Epiphone and SX and everyone else, and you'll be fine. Harley Benton is not growing a market. Harley Benton is taking a market. They're taking those sales from somebody. You bought a Harley Benton because you didn't buy something else. That's how this is working now. So to answer your question, the question is, is there a market for you? Can you do this? You can, as long as that's your attitude. You're going to build guitars, but you're literally going to take them from somebody. What you want is you want to see somebody like me, who has a Kiesel. But you didn't really say what market, but I'm saying because you do custom guitars, I'm assuming you're making U.S. guitars that are good. You need me to sell that to buy yours. Because as you guys know, I'm not going to just, like a lot of you guys, I'm not going to buy Guitars Infinity. It's not going to happen. Guitars have to go. Somebody says, SX still exists. They might be gone now. Who the hell knows? I haven't looked at Rondo in a couple months. But anyways, that's my point. My point is that it is the market. It's not so much that it's big enough or not big enough. It's you can go out there and you can take that. I told the Vola guys this 2 years ago. We were at a dinner and I said, you got to take your market from ESP and Ibanez because you're a made in Japan company. And if you want my $1,000 to $1,500, that's how you're going to get it. You're going to get it by me selling off one of my RGs or something like that and buying it. That's how it's going to work. And I think that's the truth for most of you guys. So there you go. And then the last question from last week was from Ray, who said, I bought a 335 Nashville dot burst in gloss, like you. He means like me. And he goes, is it the equivalent of the standard in the line? Okay, so he goes, basically, I saw the figured and I worried it was much better. So to answer your question, I got to tell you just this. I bought the Nashville dot burst without the flame top because I like the plainer tops. I like it. I wanted my 335 to be more of a down to earth kind of blues guitar, and I didn't want it flashy. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So I wasn't looking for a flame top. Tone wise, I don't know if the ply maple flame ply on the 5 plies of wood it has is going to change the tone all so much. It could, because it's harder woods sometimes, but I didn't do it for those reasons. I just did it aesthetically. Aesthetically, I wanted the calmer one. You know what I mean? Like, look at this H7 behind me. It's got this beautiful block inlay. It's got a flame top, and it's very cool. But like I said, I like them a little bit more toned down. So to answer your question, is it the same? I don't know, because I didn't even consider the other one. Okay, we have 1 more minute. What are we going to devote it towards? Anything else before we go? Sorry, I'm just reading questions, but a lot of them are the same ones we already got. All right. I think. Okay, we'll end with Josh. Josh says, hey, do you think my Korean PRS will be worth, I'm going to say more. He didn't say more, but I'm going to say more than the new models in 50 years. Love your channel and content. Watch it, all your stuff. I appreciate that. Thank you for the support, Josh. So here's the kick, man. Indonesia has done something very, very interesting. It's I dare say they basically hyperdrive shot off like a rocket. When Korean guitars came out, they were the cheap guitars. Well, obviously, let's go back. Made in Japan guitars were the cheap guitars, right? So, and if you're in different countries, I can only tell you what it's like to live in America, in the United States. So, in the United States, you had the USA guitars, and then all of a sudden, there's this Made in Japan stuff was like the cheaper stuff, and then that got better and better and better. And then while that was getting better, then all of a sudden, like inexpensive guitars were made in Korea. Like my first real guitar was my Aria Pro 2 and Pro, and it was made in Korea. And I didn't even know that. I didn't know when I bought it. It didn't matter. I didn't even, at that point in guitar land, I didn't know when I walked in the store. I didn't know what made the guitars different prices. As far as I knew, they were different prices because of the colors. Black ones cost more than purple ones. Right? I don't know. I kind of got the concept of brands. Brands meant something. And that's kind of what I thought was the brands were the big driver. So Aria Pro, made in Korea. I didn't think about the fact where it's made. But essentially over time, Korea was the cheaper version. There was very few made in China guitars at the time. And then after Korea, then it was made in China, more so than Indonesia. But we had made in India, made in Vietnam, all the countries all around the world. And Korea has then also proven itself as a viable. When I say proven itself and viable, I mean in its resale power, right? People all of a sudden valuing it as like we do Japanese and made in America or made in Germany or made in UK or made in Mexico, right? Made in Canada. If I forgot your country, I apologize, but that's usually the hierarchy to all this. But what's really thrown a wrench in everything is watching made in Indonesia guitars just shoot up like a rocket to prices that are $1,500, $2,500, $3,000. And Liz is saying, what about Eastman guitars? Again, great guitars. Again, look, the Eastman guitars we know are great, but we're not looking for the outliers. So made in China, guitars being expensive or have value assessed to them is the outlier. So whether it's like that PRS SE, that $1,500 one that's really cool, or the Eastmans or things like that, there are like CG, that was a cool guitar as well. Like there are good guitars there. That's not what we're arguing. We're arguing the value, the perception. That's what his core of this question is. Is his guitar that's made in Korea going to have a more value than the one made in Indonesia in some time frame? And the only thing that's really different is going to be, for value purposes, is the manufacturer origin. And so the reason I'm explaining all this is because where that typically is the case, right? I think Indonesia has become the next Korea in like a minute. It just did it no problem, to the point where now I see it so much. Look, all I do is see comments all day on the internet. I see them all day. I can get a real quick census of what everybody's thinking and saying from the thousands of comments that are flowing through. And the Indonesian comments are the most consistent in people really value the price and the quality that they're getting. There's those manufacturers have really spent a lot of time making, refining those guitars to make them really good. So to answer your question, do I think that you'll get premium for your made in Korea PRS SE over an Indonesian one? I don't think in the long term. Maybe now it will have some kind of cachet, to it. But I think in the long term it won't matter. I don't think it will matter at all. Not enough to where yours will be, 700 and the Indonesian one will be, 500. I think they'll be about the same. So there you go. All right, guys. As always, I want to thank everybody for joining me this Friday for the show. Hope you guys look out for Sunday's video, which is the Pickup Sunday video. And then the next, what do we got? What did I say? Silvertone? It's not silver. Sterling. Sterling CT50 will be the next guitar review video. And then, of course, some Sharp Maxes right after that. So, as always, please make sure you check out all the links down below if they're interested in any of that stuff. There's all kinds of stuff I put in there. And as always, thank you guys so much for your time. Till next week, know your gear. And this is where